Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. So glad you could join me and the wider Voice Essentials community. Hello to everyone who's already in the live chat. The conversation always starts around about 10-15 minutes out from the show actually starting, so I haven't had a chance to follow the conversation in the live chat pre-show today because I've been fiddling with the sound settings. You know, I get very nervous whenever I fiddle with any of the settings on anything because, you know, it's the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'm always looking to improve things here at Voice Essentials, you know, really get that spit polish going and really deliver an A-grade game for all of you who are not only watching but listening to the show, because I'm aware that some people are tuning into our live show more as a podcast, if you will, and listening more so than watching, because of course when we are doing a show like today where we're doing our Q&A, it is very talking head. It's just you ask the questions in the live chat and I answer to the best of my knowledge and ability, and away we go. And so I have asked Linda to let me know in the live doc where she puts all of your questions, just to let me know that the sound is going okay, because as I said, I've changed some settings, and I'm just wanting to make sure that it's still clear and clean and that you're hearing everything as you should hear it. And hopefully that's going and I'm just reading, oh yes, good so far, I hope. You can let me know in the chat too, everyone. Just let me know that you can hear me all clear. Hey, next week we have another special guest. Before I talk about our special guest coming up next week, wasn't Alison from last week, Alison Davies, our music therapist friend, just so informative? And I know I learnt a lot about the benefits of music in our life and how it all works for us, and just yeah, if you missed last week's show, can I encourage you to go back and have a listen? It was really enlightening, and you know, we know, I think if you watch this show, you already know the benefits that you get from music in your life, but to just be given that sort of background, sort of scientific, if you will, background as to why and the benefits of the dopamine and all those sorts of neural pathways sort of ideas. Just really fascinating. Next week's guest, Elizabeth Benson, Dr. Elizabeth Benson, if you would please, will be joining us, and she is an American singing teacher and has such a wonderful insight into the various approaches when it comes to voice instruction. And you might be asking yourself, why do we want to talk about that? You know, I'm very content. I've found my path. I find that learning about other ways and other approaches to doing things, not just in singing, but in other aspects of my life, sometimes it reveals new understandings about and new ideas about how I can, you know, apply those thoughts to my own life and my own practice. But it's also just beneficial in building that full picture around what I do. And in the area of voice, there are sort of three main stems of approach, disciplines to voice. For a long time, a lot of people really talked about only, you know, classical singing lessons and contemporary, or CCM, which there's a term we'll talk about more next week with Dr. Benson. But also, and do you know what, I've been saying this for actually about 15 years, I believe there's a third world of voice instruction that really has its own place, and that is music theatre. And we're going to unpack that. I think it's going to be a really fascinating conversation. I reached out to Dr. Benson around about 2 months ago, and she did not know me from Adam, and so she quite wisely said, "Hey, look, before we get together in the show, can we get together and have a bit of a chat on Zoom, just so we can get to know each other?" And we hit it off. Like, we had the best conversation. It was almost, I got to the end of the conversation that we had, and I really was wishing I'd hit record for that Zoom conversation, because it was just fantastic, and we were both singing from the same hymn sheet. Can I say to you, next week's show is I think it's going to be one of the better shows for the year. I think it's going to be really a really exciting discussion, and so I hope you'll join us for that. Hey, have you been able to watch the new video format that I've been starting to use here on the channel? It's the specialist sessions. We had one go live last week, and it was with our very own Kelly Morrison. It was myself teaching Kelly in one of her lessons, and you know, it's just I record the lessons for every student, private student anyway. And so with the permission of the student, what I've been starting to do is just edit as in just grab a snippet of them and put them up for you all to watch and to learn, and so that you can gain from, you know, the discussion or the instruction that I've been given. I am so keen to get your feedback about how you've been finding those. Certainly the comments in the videos themselves have been really positive, and last week I had a very good friend, Daniel Sporowski, come over, and we sat here until midnight working on audio. It's part of the reason why I'm fiddling with the audio for today's live show, hoping it's sounding nice and clear, and just really wanting to get the audio right. And I'm very aware that, for example, the video that went live last week, this new format with myself and Kelly, and I've had two or three of them, I think, go live so far. The audio of those, and a few that are already sort of slated, ready to go live, the audio is not where I really wanted it to be, and so I've been working really hard to really lift that quality of audio for you, so that, you know, did you know your hearing is the most sensitive of all of your senses? And so with video, actually, you would think, well, the visual aspect of the videos on YouTube are king. Well, actually, that's not true. Audio is king. It is so important to get the audio right, and it's an area that I'm investing a bit of time and energy into, and money currently, and I'm hoping that you're going to get a much better quality, fuller, cleaner audio, so that you can really enjoy ultimately the content, the learning content. And the other reason we're doing these new format is because I'm really wanting to strip away the unreal world that sort of seems to have taken us by storm online, and really give you some insights into, well, what does a real singing teacher do in a real singing lesson? And because so much of what we see here online is so doctored and polished, and I'm not saying that there isn't a place for that, but I think we need to balance that with real things that are raw and authentic and just human, and that will mean it will be imperfect, and it's that imperfection that I personally really love, and I'm hoping that you will too, and that together here at Voice Essentials, that we will create a community that is real, that is raw, that is authentic, and that we celebrate our imperfections. It's not to say that we aren't constantly working towards developing our voice. That's what we're all about. We are wanting to achieve and realize the full potential of our individual voices, but we aren't doing that with a view to perfection. We are wanting to do it to a view of excellence, but perfection is not our goal here. So yeah, that's the whole aim. And have I seen Kelly? Oh yes, there we go. I've just seen Kelly's name in the live chat, and it is thanks to ones like Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. You know, my private singing students who give us permission to just take a bird's eye view into their lessons and let us partake in those little bits. In fact, Kelly and I recorded another one last Friday, and Kelly, I've got to tell you, one of your responses in that video, and it's not going to go live for a number of weeks, but one of your responses is just priceless. I love it, love it, love it. And the joy of and excitement in your eyes when you you know, had that breakthrough that you self-declared was really exciting. So keep an eye out for those videos, everyone. I'm expecting that, you know, we'll get a couple of those up every month, and that'll be good. But today we are going to, and audio is brilliant. I've just seen a message from Linda. I'm so pleased that the audio is going well. I didn't do too much, just enough hopefully to reduce some of the noise that comes through. So hopefully that's enough. And what we are going to do now is we are going to, oh, hang on a second. Where am I going? Not there. We are going to go to a Q&A. So I hope you stick around, have your questions ready, because right after this, we're going to start answering them. Okay, so let's dive into our questions. Now, just a reminder, if you, and we've already got 7 questions in here, and so we usually, at the most, we get through 10 questions. But if you absolutely need your burning question answered, the best way, the most assured way of getting your question answered today is to put in a super chat. You can put that, you can see that, oh, Evo's already jumped in. Do you know Evo? I was just thinking about you on the weekend, thinking, haven't seen Evo for a little while in the show. And so I've just seen your super chat, and you will get your question answered first. That's how you do it, everyone. You throw in a super chat and your question will go to the top of the pile to make sure, as a thanks for the super chat, all of the super chat dollars get reinvested back into the channel, and it's always received with a great sense of gratitude and thankfulness as we seek to answer Evo's question to kick off. Doc, oh, and then Super King, we've got 2. Wow, it's all happening here. So Evo first. Doc, can you speak to the best exercise or 2 for voice agility, improvement and transitioning from one register to another? Well, actually, Evo, they're kind of 2 different questions. They can be conflated, and they can be happening. You can do, you know, work on both register transitions and agility at the same time. But typically, when we work on it, we would typically work on it separately, and then we would get into we'd probably work on register transitions first. Actually, it really doesn't matter which one you work on first, because in one sense, vocal agility is something we work on from kind of the get-go. So someone, when they first step into the studio, hear it in whether it be online, as I have my online lessons with Kelly, as I was mentioning before, or whether a student is here in studio, and Evo, you and I have had private lessons together online. You know, when a student and someone who has done no singing before, and when I first start going, yeah, the ability to move the voice in an agile way, you know, accurately across that 5-note scale, yeah, it actually takes agility. Now, for many of us watching this show, that may not take a lot of agility. So you know, we might be thinking of agility more in the keeping of riffs and runs, and we look at riffs and runs, for example, in Voice Essentials 2. But we also do an exercise in Voice Essentials 1, exercise 14 Evo. So that exercise requires a bit of agility. In fact, there is quite a lot of exercises that move quite quickly within the Voice Essentials program and require the agile movement of the voice across those notes. As far as the transitioning from one register to another, I start looking at transitions. Really, the idea of transitions starts to be talked about in exercises 9, 10, 11 within Voice Essentials 1, kind of indirectly, but I do look at transitions specifically at exercise, 17 and 18, when we start to do semi-occluded vocal tract activities of lip bubbles and tongue trills. For example, so where you could combine those, Evo, is if you had a lip bubble, you know, exercise 14 that I just did, well, you could do that. Could you hear at the top, towards the end of that phrase, my voice started to move into that transitional space. And so that, if I was to start that higher, you'd hear the voice click a little bit, flip as it wanted to go into that falsetto space. So that's where you can combine the two, but they are in many respects two separate things. I hope that's helpful for you to move forward, Evo. Looking forward to our next session together. And I truly mean that. I was thinking to myself on the weekend, Evo, I wonder what's happened to Evo. I haven't seen him in the Facebook community for a little while, and so I hope you're well. Okay, Super King, thanks for your super chat. How do you attain or develop do you know what? It's a funny thing. I can never say that word. Do you know when you get words that you can't say? And no matter, you know, how you jump on and you do the pronunciation on Google. Oh dear. So my apologies for not being able to say chiaroscuro. I think it's chiaroscuro. I'm almost certainly wrong. How do you attain or develop bright sound with a warmth or darkness enveloping the voice sound? Are there specific exercises? I talk about something I refer to quite a bit certainly in my private lessons a lot, and I'll talk about core tone. Now, when I use that term, and usually I'll explain what I'm talking about to a student, with a guitar string, guitarists will know this, but some of you may not. With a guitar string, so like an E, like the top, not the really thin one at the bottom E, but the top E, or would you say it the other way around? With steel strings, there is a core that has thread, like a brass thread or whatever the string is being made of, that wraps coils around the core. And when I talk about core tone, that's what I have in my mind. I have this idea of a core that I'm doing or wrapping things around it. It's a bit like a burrito, I guess. And when I think about, okay, I want a warm tone that has a bright sort of surrounding, or I want a clear tone but that has an ambience around it. That's what I'll think. I'll think about well, what is the foundational aspect of that sound? So if I go, yeah, now that's a very uneventful, clean tone. Yeah, but what happens if I want to give more ambience to that? Yeah. So I'm still working towards having a core tone. Yeah. Now, if I really brighten that and almost remove any surrounding aspect to that core, yeah, and I just really am left with a really, really strong, what's the right word? Twangy brightness, but I can really warm that up. Yeah. Can you hear that clear, focused, resonant core remains in place? I'll see if you can, I'll do it again, see if you can have a listen. Yeah. You can hear that sort of central, that it wasn't what I'm actually purposely doing is trying to widen my pharyngeal space and sort of create a little bit more shape and space, take the twang, reduce the twang so it remains, but I'm filling it out so that that which surrounds the core tone is being kept in check. I hope that sort of explains what I'm talking about. That takes a lot of practice, and you can hear even as I'm sort of just doing this on the fly, it's completely underdeveloped. It's something that if I was doing it for a particular song or I was workshopping it in a particular exercise, then I could really play around and refine that aspect of a core tone. As far as any specific exercises go, well, it comes down to you first being able to develop what is your core tone. Is it twang? Is it, are you looking for a removal of twang? Are you looking for the core attribute to be a warm, rich tone that you then put breathiness around? So think about it as layers, and then start to just hand pick exercises. And it's a funny thing, we do, even within Voice Essentials, the Voice Essentials exercise collection has 50 activities that are some of them are really complex the further on into it you get. But there is so much you can do with just a 5-note scale. You don't have to do anything fancy. You can literally just get so much out of ya, ya, ya. So I'm already playing with the aesthetic values of those notes. And anyway, so I hope that's helpful, Super King. I've just seen a super chat from the one and only Kelly Morrison. Would you please answer Javiga's question? Kelly, you are so good to people. Throwing in a super chat for Javiga. It reminded me that I have some discomfort this weekend and I'm wondering if it's related to the exercise. Well, I'm going to come down here and see if I can see what Javiga's question was. And I'm jumping in here. Javiga, this is as a special thanks to Kelly, which I'm sure you will be thankful for. Hi, this is Javiga's question. Hi, I've been musically absent for over 5 years and I've been practicing with your videos. Is it normal for my lower abdomen to have pain and soreness? Whenever I hear the word soreness or pain or even the word discomfort, it always does throw up some red flags for me. And it generally causes me to want to sort of explore why. Because none of the exercises in Voice Essentials 1, 2, or 3 should ever cause you pain, soreness, or discomfort. And so generally speaking, it requires a reworking of what you're doing. Pain and soreness often comes from an imbalance somewhere. Something's out of whack. There's a coordination that's not happening in the manner that we need it to. You're talking about your lower abdomen, and I wonder whether you're, and of course, Javiga, I can't really know, and Kelly, in reference to your discomfort, you and I can talk about it this week when we see each other for your lesson. Javiga, I'm just going to be quite generalized here, because ultimately I can't know until I work specifically with you, because this is a very specific thing. I do activate, as a part of my process with my students, a whole body approach. It's all about you as a singer. In fact, let's do this. Let's jump over. I wonder if I can go here, go there, and I'm going to stick with me, everyone, because what I'm going to try and do is come over here and see if you can't. I think you can all still see me. So when I do whole body activities with students, I am causing them to move and to bend and to activate the lower support structure, because what we're trying to do is we are trying to have our entire bodies, from sort of our belly button up, just release, particularly shoulders and neck, so that the larynx has a certain dynamic buoyancy so that it can move freely. But in doing so, we're engaging our thighs, buttocks, pelvic floor, lower, mid-abs, the obliques, lumbar. And in doing that, by simply, for example, when we do exercise 1, we're moving through the activity. The thing about that is, though, that if you're already carrying tension here, and some, particularly dancers, so a lot of people who do a lot of dance will really, hold their tummies in, to hold their rectus abdominis really in tight. And the moment I add further activity here, that can create even more pull and tightness and tension. And so we do have to be careful with that. Now, I've just had a memory that Kelly, I think I left you, Kelly, with some instruction this week to play with that stability ball that we talked about. I wonder whether for you, Kelly, if you have been doing more activity with the stability ball, that may be over-activating this. Maybe not even over-activating. It might simply be, let me come back over here, everyone. It may not be a case of, for you, Kelly, an over-engagement. It just might be that you've tired the muscles out. Muscles take time to build strength and fitness to a task. Back to Javiga, it may be that you've got some tightness there. You may want to consider going and seeing a physiotherapist, or if you can, work with a singing teacher and see if they can't, help you to rebalance what's going on there. But can I tell you, just once again, that under no circumstances should you ever have any pain or discomfort or soreness associated with the exercises that I do. And when students personally, privately do reflect that, more often than not, it's simply because we need to rebalance how they're approaching things. And when we rebalance the musculature and get everything working a little bit more fluently, that discomfort and soreness ceases. And so I can assure you of that. I'm coming down to Peter, who's thrown out a super chat. Thank you, Peter. I've been having stuffed nose because of allergy. Doesn't affect my chest range, but my mixed range is so much harder. How should I practice during this time? Peter, I too suffer with allergies, and in fact here in Brisbane, Australia, Brisbane is known as Australia's allergy capital of the world. We're about to head into spring here in the Southern Hemisphere, and so my allergies are going to start flaring up. There are a number of different approaches that you can take to allergies, and more often than not, I find that the different approaches are going to ring true and resonate with you as an individual. So, for example, for myself, I choose to take a topical nasal spray, an over-the-counter pharmaceutical, which is called Nasonex. No sponsorship, just I find that it helps to calm down the allergic response of my nasal passage, which then in turn reduces the flare-up, which in turn reduces the added secretion, which then creates a postnasal drip, which then drops onto my vocal folds, which then has me clearing that away, and and then I exacerbate swollen vocal folds, and that can then lead to me not having, full agility across, even agility and movement across my full vocal range. So that's how I approach it. I also am teaming that up with, good water intake. Yes, that's a water bottle. It almost looks like a gun canister or something. More water intake, and you can try doing a nasal rinse. Some people find neti potties very helpful. You can there's a whole range of things that you can try. I do encourage you to try and get to the bottom of your allergy. So I would be talking to your family doctor about what's setting you off, and if you find that there's a specific thing, it's better to get to the root cause than simply always treat the symptom. Maybe you've already done that, but that's what I encourage you to do. You can continue to practice with your allergies, but you may need to manage what you expect of your voice during that period of time. We have to work within the confines of our humanness, and the human condition is buffeted by a whole range of things, and allergies for many of us is just one of those. So Peter, that's what I would recommend you consider. I do have a whole video on allergies and phlegm, to be more specific, and you might want to have a look at that video, and maybe you'll find that helpful. Okay, so let's jump down. Do you know what? Thank you for all the super chats today. I haven't even got to question one that haven't had any super chats, so that's where we're going to go right now. Mackenzie, you talk about style-specific training, like you shouldn't be trained in classical and rock at the same time, but does that apply to music theatre training? Can I be trained in music theatre and pop at the same time? Great question, Mackenzie. I know you'll be in next week's shows. You'll be watching next week, Mackenzie. So, and even if your little, is it niece or nephew? I think you're about to have a new one come into your wider family in the next week or so. But even if you do, I know you'll come back. Please watch the show with myself and Dr. Benson. That is the exact topic we are going to talk about in great detail. So come back next week, Mackenzie, and we will answer that whole show will be dedicated to that exact question. Ashley, one of my private students, Ashley, up there in Canada, I would love to know how high I should be going with my warm-ups. Warm-ups are not about range per se. Warm-ups are about generating blood flow and getting the musculature to move, and getting the muscle fibers to start to stretch and get motion in them. That being said, you would, as a part of a 10-minute warm-up, you would, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and certainly in the way I instruct it, you do start to explore the greater capacity of your range. However, I don't think a warm-up is where you should be expecting your voice to travel its full, complete range of motion. I'll just say, to add to that, to clarify, if you will, you know, if you're getting to 85-90% of your full vocal range, then that's in a warm-up. That's great. But leave your money notes for sort of once you're actually in your, either whether it's a vocal workout, a technical workout, or in a performance. Don't go looking to swim your gold medal race in your warm-up laps. You leave those in reserve for where it counts. And so, Ashley, I hope that helps. Mr. Double Bass Drum. Hey, Mr. Double Bass Drum. Even with the correct technique, how much time of singing practice is too much? That is a good question, Mr. Double Bass Drum. I generally recommend for most people, really, if you're doing a vocal workout it really depends on where you are in your development. If you're just starting out, then, you know, when you start out with Voice Essentials, and you can learn this more about this in my course, which is going across the bottom of the screen right now. In Voice Essentials 1, I have you practicing every second day for around about 20 minutes. By the time you complete Voice Essentials 1, we can start to go to, well, by the time you complete Voice Essentials 1, you're doing around about an hour, give or take, every second day. Then we move into Voice Essentials 2, and we kind of can add a day. So you're doing like 5 days a week for about an hour. By the time we get to Voice Essentials 3, we can be not only doing 5 to 6, though I think 5 is a good marker, 5 to 6 days a week, always fit in a day or two of vocal rest. Really important. But you can be lengthening your vocal workout. So you might be doing, you know, 2 1-hour sets of vocal practice separated with a half hour to an hour break, or you might be doing an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. And it's all about you managing your specific biological response to the load you are requiring of your body. And it comes back to your individual voice. It's very hard to set in absolute stone one size fits all in this particular regard. So just be mindful that you do need to just, you know, manage it according to your own voice. But every voice does need to go through that fitness building process in the development of their practice regime. And every voice, I highly recommend every voice fit in times of vocal rest. And I'm talking a day or two preferably 2. That means you can be doing 3 days. You can literally go, you can literally practice Monday, Wednesday. You could go Monday, Tuesday, have a day of rest on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, day of rest on Saturday, and practice on Sunday. So you can do it that way. There's so many different ways I mean, it's according to your own schedule and what you've got on your, you know, what you've got to achieve in life. Hopefully that's helpful, Mr. Double Bass Drum. Sharon, I think I'm going to answer 2 more questions. So I'm going to answer Sharon's question. If you absolutely must have your question answered today, you're going to have to throw in a super chat, because otherwise I'm going to answer the next question after Sharon's. Firstly, Sharon Fox. Okay, Aretha was known for having air conditioners turned off during sound checks and performances. Any tips when you aren't Aretha and can't demand management turn it off? Yes, well, you know, Aretha Franklin was Aretha Franklin, right? And the reason she would have had the air conditioners turned off would have been because of the significant drying effect that they have. I'm guessing, but I guess it would have been the significant drying effect that the air conditioners would have had on the air. And so in seeking to not have the air dried out as much as an air conditioner would do, Aretha, I didn't know this, admittedly. I'm taking your word for this, Sharon, that Aretha would have asked for the air conditioners to be turned off. Look, that and that will, with the modern world of air conditioners, I think air conditioning technology has come a little way since then. In fact, there's now air conditioners that can rehumidify the air as they're going. And the reality is you're not going to find out what model of air conditioner every venue that you go into has. And so the way to combat this, and from a drying point of view, is just to keep your hydration levels up. You've got to get into a regular practice habit of drinking more water. I know some people don't like drinking water, but it is your lifeblood as a singer. The reason we have to have more water in our system is because it's not when you swallow the water, you get a little bit of moisture through the vocal tract, and that feels nice, but that doesn't touch your vocal folds. It takes 20 to 30 minutes for that water to get into your stomach and into your system and to be assimilated into your bloodstream. And it is your bloodstream that then helps to what will be the right word? Refuel the lubrication. So there's a lubricant that gets secreted over the surface of the vocal folds, and that's literally helping to reduce friction. And friction creates heat. Heat can exacerbate vocal fold swelling, which can cause fatigue and can lead to other problems. But just in general voice use, it's all about reducing the friction by virtue of keeping the lubrication going. That's why, hydration is so important. And that's why, stepping into, dehumidified spaces by virtue of air conditioning is not great, because the less moisture content, water content that there is in the air, the drier the air, the more quickly your vocal folds, that lubrication, will be worked through. So hopefully that's helpful. Sharon, yes, most of us aren't ever going to have a rider that demands that the air conditioning be turned off. Raul, you got lucky, because I'm going to answer your question last. This is the last question for today. Which exercises to do after singing? That would be called a vocal cool down, Raul. And where I would send you is back onto the channel, onto the Voice Essentials channel. I have 2 vocal cool down sort of work. They're 5-minute videos, and depending on whether you're male, female, low voice, high voice, will be the one you choose to have a look at. And jump on there, just type in, go to the channel page, Dr. Dan's Voice Essentials, go to the videos page, search for cool downs, and you will find it. And that's what I would recommend you do. It only takes 5 minutes to cool the voice down, to stretch out. A cool down is all about moving the retained fluid and lactic acid away from the sort of out of the cells of the vocal that make up the vocal folds, wonderfully complex things that they are, and helps the voice just to return back to a comfortable point, sort of like a 0 point, if you will. So hopefully that answers your question, Raul. Once again, oh dear me, how many questions have we got? We didn't get through half of them. I do apologize for that, but that's, it's exciting here at the show, isn't it? Now that we've got so many people that, chime in every week. We do these live hangouts every Monday, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And I really do hope that you'll, make sure you subscribe and hit the white bell icon, because that's the way you always will get notified that we're doing a live show. These Q&As, we've kind of fallen into a bit of a rhythm this year. These Q&As happen generally every second week. So we'll be doing another one of these Q&As in 2 weeks' time, because next week, of course, we've got Dr. Elizabeth Benson, Benson, and she'll be joining me. She's going to be joining me. It'll be very late hour for her. She's on the east coast of the US, and so I'm very grateful for her to be joining us. And seriously, Mackenzie, it's not only you that's going to love next week's show. Everyone is going to learn something. I'm really looking forward to spending some time with her, as I know you will be. But I hope the rest of your week goes well. I've got a pre-record video coming out on Wednesday about phrasing. Yeah, if you're really interested in how to develop your style and your phrasing, make sure you watch that video. Hopefully you'll learn something. And yeah, as we always do here at Voice Essentials, it's all about learning more about voice. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing.